We got five. Three, two.
All right. Today is June 18th. This is a regularly scheduled meeting early, so we don't conflict with Election Day next Tuesday. And so I would like to call this session of court into order, and I will begin with an invocation, and then following that I will lead in the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's all pray in your way. Lord, we come before you today, and we ask for your wisdom to be poured out on this body, that we take full accountability and responsibility with the interest of all Boyle Countyans to move this county forward, to improve the quality of life, to do things in such a fiscally responsible way that we are proud of our efforts. Proud is probably not the right word, that we are confident that our efforts are for the betterment of all in the county. We ask that not only your wisdom be poured out on this body, but for those that are separated from us, we ask for your travel mercies, your protection, your health, your healing in all regards. And we thank you for allowing us the opportunity to lead this county in a responsible way. And we appreciate all that you do, and we ask for your continued guidance and deliverance over this body, and this county, and this state, and this nation. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right. Now, if you'll follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right. Next on the agenda, we need to approve the prior meeting minutes, and we have that before us, and I'll entertain a motion. And looks like the minutes are this from the last court session. They could be called the hours. You know, it's 5 and 6. Let's see. Yep.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, sir. Motion made by Magistrate Sammons. Second by Magistrate Short. Discussion changes, deletes, comments.
Judge, on page 2, 7 or 8 lines down with the sentence starting board lists with term days, should be I apologize, not I apology.
Where are you?
Page 2, 8 lines down, where the line starts board lists, 5 or 6 rows.
Yeah, I apologize.
Yeah.
Okay.
Similarly, Boyle County Health Department, 3rd line down, right after the numbers is our, O-U-R, rather than out, current rate.
All right. No further discussion or changes or comments. Ask for a vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes with those changes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? There's no opposition, so the minutes are approved. Thank you for that. All right, next. Ms. Conley is going to present the request for approval of bills, and then she'll be followed by budget and cash transfers.
So the bill presented to the fiscal court this morning, payroll is $298,563.49. And the bills are $219,709.25. In reviewing the bills last night, there's a change that's required on For Southern Health Partners, they submitted a bill in the amount of $35,498.07, which is the amount of next fiscal year's contract. The monthly amount, that needs to be revised to $34,464.15, which is a reduction of $1,033.92. So the total bills with payroll and vouchers are revised to a $517,238.82 amount. Any questions on the bills?
Make a motion, accept the bill.
Motion made by Magistrate Short to approve the bills as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Magistrate Sammons. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, and the motion carries. Thank you.
Let's talk about budget transfers. I circulated those last night by email to all of the magistrates, in addition to receiving a copy of those this morning in their packet. I present those budget adjustments to the fiscal court for approval. Most of these are within budget transfers by department. If anybody has any questions about those, I'd be more than happy to answer those as well.
Entertain a motion on to approve the budget transfers as presented.
Make a motion to approve the budget transfers.
All right, made by Magistrate Sammons,
Second it.
seconded by Magistrate Short. Any discussion on the budget transfers? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you. Last, for my part, are the cash transfers. There are two cash transfers presented here. The first one is to the joint jail for operations in the amount of $109,500. And there's a second one, because it's an error on my part, because I like to deposit $3,000 Mercer County administrative fees into the joint jail account when in fact they should be in the general fund, so I need to move those from the joint jail into the general fund. Thank you.
Make a motion, we accept the cash transfers.
Second.
All right, motion made to accept the cash transfers as presented, made by Magistrate Short and seconded by Magistrate Sammons. Is there any discussion on the matter, the motion? There being none, all those signify you vote. All those in favor of signify you vote. With an aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. And motion carries. Thank you. All right, looks like we're at the consent calendar. The request for the approval of the appointment of Tim Montgomery, the CVB, effective 7/1/20. This came up last time, and it's back again. Just for, if the court can hear me clearly, what I would like to do moving forward is when we get to the administrative code discussion later on, I would like to remove some portions of that as it relates to committee appointments. But if it's the court's pleasure, I would like to consider the promotion of vacancy opportunities from my office in the future in advance of those appointments' closing date for consideration of new nominees to the position, and should they agree with my vision of those committees' future, present those to the court for confirmation, akin to the positions like a gubernatorial, well, let me just put it this way, it's easier to put it this way, like a presidential nomination for Senate confirmation. I would present a nominee that that I agree with, presented by anybody or by myself, to the court for consideration for an up or down vote. And until that vote is taken on that nominee, we will not move forward until, we will not go to the next nominee until the next court session, should it be voted down in that nomination. So that being the case, the nomination of Tim Montgomery was presented to me, and I agree with the nomination, so I'm going to put it forward to the court for an up or down vote, and that's what this is about right now. So I would request a voice vote by name of you vote aye for approval and nay for non-confirmation. Okay? I'll go across the room. Magistrate Gay. Aye. Okay, Magistrate Short.
Aye.
Magistrate Cullen.
Aye.
And Magistrate Salmons.
Aye.
Of those magistrates present this day.
Gentlemen.
And Ellis, excuse me, Tom.
Aye.
My apologies.
No problem.
Aye for you.
Aye.
So those magistrates present during this court session, the affirmative of confirmation is unanimous. The next, and we have on camera with us, a next nominee for the Human Rights Commission, comes highly recommended to us by Mr. Hunn, the former chairman of that committee for many, many years. And I am confident, and Ms. Beasley, I appreciate you being with us today on the GoToMeeting, and thank you so much. I agree with Mrs. Beasley's nomination as a recommendation to the judge, and so I'll put forth her name for confirmation. I think Mrs. Beasley has the experience and to be a great participant in that committee. So I will ask for the same kind of up or down vote by this court in regarding Mrs. Patricia Beasley's appointment to the Human Relations Council. Committee, excuse me. So I'll go around the room. Magistrate Gay? Aye. Aye, okay. Magistrate Short?
Aye.
All right. Magistrate Cullen?
Aye.
Magistrate Ellis?
Aye.
Magistrate Salmons?
Aye.
With those magistrates being present, I think I got everybody. Congratulations, Mrs. Beasley. You're unanimously confirmed to the position of being a committee member on the Human Relations Committee.
Thank you for your patience, too.
Thank you for your patience.
Effective 6/1.
Do you have any questions of this court, Mrs. Beasley? Okay. Well, thank you for being with us for the second time. I apologize again for the last course of action that we took, but I appreciate you being with us, and your patience is deeply appreciated. You have a great day, Mrs. Beasley. I look forward to your participation. Thank you. All right. County Clerk's amended 2020 budget is up next. And I've got before me, should I read all these amounts in this statement? Okay, so this is in reference to Curly Bottom's amended budget. This amendment increases the budget expenses from employers match Social Security in the amount of $13,325 for a total of $13,325. The amendment increases the budget expenses from employers match retirement in the amount of $56,428 for that same total. This amendment increases the budget expenses employer paid insurance in the amount of $71,443 for that same total. So the new budgeted receipt amounts are $8,492,850. The new budgeted disbursement amounts are $8,209,196, with budgeted excess fees being $283,654. Request a motion to approve this amended budget by the Boyle Fiscal Court this day in June of 2020. So, are there any I need to entertain a motion to approve the amended county clerk's budget.
So moved.
Made by Magistrate Dallas, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Magistrate Short, I think?
Short.
All right. Any discussion on what I have read and stated? Yes, ma'am.
The county treasurer would just like to report that this is not it's an increase to her budget, but it's not an increase to personnel because personnel remains the same. What we're doing is the fiscal court used to pay for those employee benefits, but in the fiscal court's fiscal year budget from July to June has asked the county clerk to take over her employee benefits and to be responsible for those instead of turning those over in excess fees. So what this does is it increases her budget, not due to more employees, but reduces her excess fees to what we normally see annually.
But the difference being those benefits that she has now assumed.
That's exactly. I just wanted to make sure that everybody in the public understood that she was not adding that many people to her staff.
Right. Any more discussion? Signify your vote. All those in favor of, signify your vote, please, by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. And that motion carries unanimously. Thank you for that. And I'll sign that amended budget. Next, we have joint jail update. Good morning. Good morning.
I do not have the minutes from the joint jail. I had to miss the last joint jail meeting. I had a prior commitment, so I do not have the minutes. So Judge, do you have those or?
I don't have the minutes before me, but you got a man? Okay, there you go.
All right, thank you.
Shirley, we just finished with you. All approved.
I took care of it for you. I took care of it for you.
Shirley, how's the vote going?
It's going. It's going.
Thank you for your staff. It was wonderful to walk in and take care of that.
Well, thank you. Appreciate the compliment. 8:45. Sorry.
Trent.
Okay, y'all need me to tell anything?
No, ma'am, we're good. We're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Gaylor?
All right, looks like the minutes were approved. Treasurer Connolly circulated the Health Department contract for inmate medical services effective July 1, 2020 through June 31st, 2021. She reported that the language was the same as the previous year, with other changes being the amounts charged, the current medical rates. She also circulated an adjustment for the Southern Health Partners contract, and that's who provides our medical service at the detention center. So the adjustment was for 3%, which is typical, increase of $1,033.92 a month, and that would be effective July 1, 2020. Then she reported that she informed the committee that I plan to turn over $25,000 on the next fiscal year from our canteen account for inmate medical services. My goal is to be able to provide, be able to cover the mental health contract with New Vista. Mary, is it 50 or 53? What was the total price on that contract?
Yeah, it was around 50 to 53,000.
It's around 50, 53. So my goal is to use the canteen money to pay for that contract. So basically, the inmates would be paying for that service, and it wouldn't be a burden to taxpayers. So that's our goal we're working towards, so we're halfway there.
Can we do them collectively, or should we do them individually?
I would do them individually, and they're listed on your agenda.
Right. So, Magistrate Gay, the first contract up for consideration is the Health Department inmate medical contract that I would entertain a motion for approval.
I second it.
Okay, made by Magistrate Gay. Is that correct, Jamie? Yes. And seconded by Magistrate Short. Any discussion on the Health Department inmate medical contract? You can ask questions of the jailer right now. There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, that passes unanimously.
Then here's the copy. I will leave it for Ann, and then.
Yeah. Is that on the health inmate contract?
This is for the Health Department, and it needs a signature from the Boyle County Fiscal Court and Mercer County Fiscal Court. So I'm assuming both judges will have to sign these.
Yeah, we approved that in joint jail.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And all the contracts that we're going over are in the minutes that were approved.
Right.
And I think the next one on the list is the Shepherd's House SAP contract. Now, this is the Shepherd's House program inside the jail. This is not the IOP day treatment. So they provide a SAP program for state inmates. Normally, we run 40 inmates, but with the coronavirus and not being able to transfer inmates between facilities, I think they're at 20 currently. So I spoke with Jared prior to the meeting, and everything's pretty much the same. So I would recommend we go ahead and renew the contract with Shepherd's House.
Okay, we have a recommendation from the jailer. There's a motion to approve that.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Okay, made by Magistrate Cullen to approve the Shepherd's House
Second.
SAP contract, and seconded by Magistrate Sammons. Is there any questions or discussions on this of the jailer?
Brian, when you said there's only 20, as long as we've got people attending, I mean, that's the best thing for people in your facility. So I'm just happy that you guys are still pushing it forward and not postponed it or anything like that, so.
Correct. And, you know, right now, the Department of Corrections is very, I guess they're very strict on their guidelines, so we're not able to move. We have empty beds. Usually we can prepare. We know if we have 3 people graduating, well, we'll start working with other jails to have those beds filled when the others move out the same day, because the state pays us $9 a day for the to provide that service, which is a wash for the county. That's the money that we use to pay Shepherd's House. So they're in a tight spot right now, losing money. But yes, we are moving forward.
And General, if possible, could we, I saw Roger Fox the other day.
Mm-hmm.
We have to have him back. We haven't heard from him in a while, and I would love to hear what they're doing with the whole corona thing.
We'd be glad to do that. Ms. Ann, take a note. We need to invite Roger to a court session for update on their activities.
And also on that, we're still providing the reentry services for those state inmates when they graduate SAP. So that's what James Hunn's doing. He's providing the MRT and portals, so we're still continuing with that as well.
I think it'd be valuable to simultaneously, if you don't mind that from the jail's perspective, but is to have Mr. Hunn come in and talk about, update us with what he's doing in the jail also.
And he provides me with the numbers. He sends me an email weekly with the roster. And one thing I'll kind of go ahead and, we have found a solution to being able to provide a reentry program for our county inmates. Before we were having difficulty, we wanted to start a program for women, but not having the available space to provide those services. Well, James and I and Chad, I think we found a solution. Any cost, of course, will be paid for by Canteen, but as part of that will fall under what James is doing with the reentry for the state. We're not ready to talk about the particulars yet. We're still working out. We have some stakeholders that we want to invite in the community to be a part of this. Part of that is employment, of course, mental health and some different areas, ASAP as well. But we hope to, within the next 2 months, to be able to sit down and have a meeting, and I'd like for Judge and then the two magistrates that's on my committee, Mr. Ellis and Mr. Gay, to be a part of that as well, and then we'll be ready to roll it out. But I think it's going to make a positive impact on our community.
Okay, that sounds really good. That sounds really good.
And when you say, we're talking James Hunt Jr., right?
Yes.
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 And then I have the contract here for the Shepherd's House, once it's approved, and also Jared will need to sign this one as well.
Okay.
He signed a copy for us at the joint jail meeting.
Okay.
He did, yeah. So the motion is been made and seconded to approve the Shepherd's House SAP contract. Is there any further discussion on this? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, next, we need to consider the Southern Health Partners contract.
And yes, and that contract is basically an increase of 3% on the new contract, which is typical. And I would recommend fiscal court approving and continuing with Southern Health Partners as our
As it
medical
was
provider.
done so in the joint jail meeting last week. There was recommendation by them.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made by Magistrate Cullen to approve Southern Health Partners contract and seconded by Magistrate Ellis. Discussion, please. There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Did you vote, Magistrate Gay? I didn't hear you.
I did.
Okay, just making sure. That passes unanimously to approve that
And then
contract.
here's a copy that I have signed on
Okay.
that. I have a copy because they need it back by the end of the month, and I'll go ahead and take care of making sure they receive it, but I'll leave a copy for him.
Yeah, we'll get all the signatures that you need.
Master Gay was putting on suntan lotion.
Is that what it was?
And then, Judge, the last one on here is the DOE Copier Contract. This contract basically provides service on our copiers. It's going to be $1,035 for the year. I think that's a good investment for maintenance because we print a lot of copies.
How's that compare to last year's contract or last contract?
I don't know. I don't have that one in front of me. It's about the same because I think we had a different contract and we're renewing because we were paying for the copier last year, so the copier's paid off. So basically, this is just a service contract. They'll come out and provide maintenance, and I think it would.
Make a motion to approve it.
I'll second it.
All right, motion made to approve the DOE copier contract made by Magistrate Sammons and seconded by Magistrate Cullen. Any discussion on the motion?
I just appreciate you using a local business, a great
Right.
local business here for that, so thank you.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you for that.
And I have a signed copy of that for Ann. I'll leave it
Okay.
there. That's all I have, Judge, unless
All right,
anybody has
thank
any
you.
questions.
Thank you. Moving right along, DLG application and resolution regarding COVID-19. Just for the court's information, there's been a DLG determined COVID-19 fund that, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this discussion, Treasurer Conley, but the fund has been assessed at approximately $1,023,000. And that fund is to be a reimbursable fund for those activities and costs that the county incurs under the COVID-19 through December 31 of 2020. And so the application, there is a required application that is to be submitted to DLG by each county court, fiscal court, and it has to be accompanied by a resolution. And there is an authorized resolution 20.06.18, County of Boyle. Do you have that? Has everybody had an opportunity to review that resolution?
Yes, and I'll make the motion that we go ahead and,
I'll second.
Okay, a motion to approve the, I guess I'm gonna call it the DLG COVID-19 resolution. It's been made by Magistrate Cullen and seconded by Magistrate Ellis. Any discussion on this that allows for my signature to move this forward?
Judge, a couple questions.
Sure.
On the news this past week, New York, Arizona, Georgia, and I believe one other state, and you can't call this a resurgence, it's a surge of cases. Would there be federal funds, and would we have the right to amend upwards of that 1,023,000 if in the event we had a very serious surge of cases in our communities?
Since these are funds that are come from the federal government and distributed based on population by the Department of Local Government, that cannot answer that question at this time. Now, it'd have to be adjudicated between the state and the federal government on these funds. Right now, it is what it is until there is an expansive or explosive growth in cases.
Just pray that we don't.
That we don't have that.
May I add to that conversation? So these are federal funds that are being funneled through the state to
Right.
the localities, but there still is FEMA funds available. I had a conversation with Kentucky EM yesterday morning, and there are funds available in addition to these funds, but there is going to be high scrutiny on what's being submitted so that people or entities are not duplicating expenses,
Or double dipping.
double
Yeah,
dipping.
yeah.
So,
And that's protection of our tax dollars.
as treasurer, I have decided to move forward with the DLG side of things because FEMA gets a little complicated whenever you start drawing funds from that agency specifically. And this is through the CARES Act, where it's different from when the judge declared a disaster in the county, which opens up a separate set of funds. So in speaking with the Kentucky EM support staff, I told them we were going to wait and we were going to look to see what the CARES money covered. And since the FEMA funds are open-ended, there's no ending date, which is very unusual for them because FEMA always gives you, in an emergent situation, a closing date. That is open-ended, so we're going to kind of see what we can draw on, and anything that we can't, we'll redirect to FEMA. Does that
Excellent.
answer your question?
Excellent clarification, thank you.
some of the updated equipment we've had to purchase, the microphones, the cameras, is that stuff that can be submitted?
You betcha.
You bet.
Wonderful.
Yes. Absolutely. Is there any further discussion on the resolution as presented? If there being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you for that. And that is both application and resolution.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay? All right. Next on the agenda, request approval of local health department services to employees of Boyle County Fiscal Court.
I'll make that motion.
All right, you have that information,
Yep.
ahead of you, and there is Brent, sent a note that everybody's seen, hey, we can talk about these at the next fiscal court meeting. Only changes are if the Medicaid rate changes. Okay?
Yep.
So what I will ask is for the court to, well, we have a motion for the approval of the local health department services to employees of Boyle County Fiscal Court. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion been made by Magistrate Cullen, seconded by Magistrate Sammons. Is there any further discussion on the information as to what this is about?
Yeah, Judge, several clarifications here. I personally, as a teacher in Boyle County system, was exposed once years ago, and the Hep B injections that I received, I recall costing, it might have been $85 a piece, or 85 total, I'm not sure. I have some concerns that we clarify, and perhaps Chris would be able to help us on this from the legal standpoint. First of all, when we look on the second page, 3/4 of the way down, is that a $3,000 limit that we're voting for, regardless of the numbers of people who could be exposed to all 5 or 6 of these categories? Because that could be woefully lacking if, in fact, we had some kind of a serious outbreak with all sorts of treatments being done. And I would recommend in the very first line under witness thereof, or that the health department agrees to perform the following services as needed.
Where is your, on the last
Right on
thing?
the front page, dead center, witness there that the health department agrees to perform the following services as needed, :
How does as needed clarify?
I'm sorry?
This has been the same contract for the last 15 years.
This is
so.
my background, and.
But I'm saying, how does that?
We never have any trouble with it. It's just regular language, Tom.
So,
Okay.
in essence, we have not actually used this contract yet. So the $3,000 doesn't really concern me specifically because I know, did you go to the doctor for your hep, or did you go to the health department?
No, excuse me, I went to the health department.
You did go to,
Yeah.
because it must have been more expensive at that time because mine wasn't that expensive.
And many things in healthcare
Have
over the years
changed.
have come down.
So we have on-site nurses that take care of certain departments already, and we have other ways of.
Cost effective.
Yeah. So we do use this. This is available to us if we want to use it.
This is
But we've not taken advantage of this contract, and this contract's language has been the same since we first started. The only thing that changes are the amounts which flow with Medicaid rates.
Okay.
I
Again,
doubt very seriously we would ever exceed or see the $3,000.
really?
No.
Okay. Scope of work at the bottom. Third line down toward the end, you can grammatically and legally, since we have myriad committees out there of volunteers who are not paid staff, who are not fiscal court members or anything else, if you have it the way it is, and I'm sorry that this has existed for years, but I haven't been here but 15, 16 months, employees / volunteers, I would recommend that read, and it also is a clarification that they're not forced into this, employees volunteering with no / in between. That would keep us out of a legal circumstance. For example, if our Constitution Square committee said, well, we read this, and technically and grammatically, our attorney has said that since we were all exposed to something, you'll pay for it. If you change that to ing without the / I'd feel very comfortable with that. And then secondly, on the bottom line, county judge.
Explain that one to me again, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know.
Because I'm not following, because it says employees or volunteers.
No, it doesn't say or, it says /.
/ yeah, but say you're saying employees volunteering?
Yes, if
But our
I'm
employees don't
exposed as an
volunteer.
employee, first of all, I don't want to be forced to have that, and I want my Bill of Rights to be able to say, I don't want it. I'll ride this out and hope I don't get Hep B like I was exposed to. So I would change that. It's a very simple change. And then we know that it is only employees, it's not members of some of our citizens' committees.
Well, if we do pre-employment testing or post-offer testing, that's where this would come into play. If somebody's going to be doing a job that requires certain inoculations or, so if they refuse to do it, then we don't have to employ them. But we're not going to force any employees to do any type of hepatitis B at the jail is is offered to them if they're interested in having that. So,
All the more, I think that plays into my clarification, that we're not
but
taking
what
away
if we
their
have
right.
somebody on the Constitution Square Festival who's not Constitution Square Committee who would like to have it as a volunteer? So you've excluded any volunteer.
So the intent was to include volunteers?
Yes.
If they're working on behalf of the county and the county wants them to, has a volunteer opportunity, a big countywide cleanup in cemeteries, or if we do something to that nature, we can offer this to them and say that if you want to do it and you have not been inoculated, we can provide that service for you.
Normal committee participation in the committee in itself will not foster the need for a hepatitis B or A shot.
Well, my understanding was that it would not include anything except our employees. I'm wrong on that, correct?
Tom, we've had that same contract for 20 years.
But that's
We've
not the
never
point.
had a
Nobody's
problem.
ever challenged the language, and it
Never
they
had a
have two
problem.
different meanings. If
This-
we want our volunteers, that's
this-
fine with me.
This is a contract that the fiscal court has with the health department to be able to access services, whether it be employees or those volunteering on behalf of the fiscal court.
Then I withdraw on that consideration. On the last line, county judge executive will assume responsibility for the change,
The charge.
or charge, excuse me. I would parenthetically make that charge, parens, S, parens, because there's gonna be more than one case in a year's time.
Well, there is I think, not to be combative, it says services, which is plural,
Yeah.
and the charge is for plurality, not a single charge is for a service.
That's right, that's right.
All right, fine, thank you.
Okay, so we have I think we have
We do.
we have a motion and a second.
Yep. Sanders.
Okay, second by Magistrate Sammons. All right, is there any further discussion on this? For those that, with approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, and the motion carries. Thank you for that. All right, let me find my agenda here that I've kind of thrown around and carrying on. Oh, there it is.
Oh.
Okay, next. What we have before us is to consider the solid waste EMS Public Works copier replacement quote. And I believe,
Angie was going to do that,
Okay.
but I would be pleased to be able to present this on their behalf because
thank you.
the fiscal court was presented a quote at the last meeting of $4,984.33, and after the meeting, I felt like that was a copier that was pretty fancy for that department. So I called the Danville Office Equipment back and talked to the salesperson or the director of the Department of Sales and talked to him specifically about a copier that would be appropriate for that area for all involved. And the reason for the difference, the revised quote that was sent to me was $2,875.52. The reason for the difference is because the first copier that was presented included that huge paper that the county has only used it out of our office during budget time. It's 15 by 17 or something like that. So what that does to a copier cost is it just doubles the size and the capabilities and the cost associated. So since we have that paper size available, if they ever need to do that in the county judge's office, I asked for a revised quote eliminating that type of paper, and as you can see, it dramatically dropped.
Are you recommending this size copier?
Absolutely.
What have you, Murray?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'll make a motion, we approve it.
I'll second it. I got you.
Motion made by Magistrate Sammons and approved by multiples.
Cullen?
Cullen? Okay. Is there any discussion on the recommendation for this copier for solid waste, EMS, and public works? The cost will be divided proportionally amongst those functions. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. And motion carries. Thank you for
The
that.
treasurer would like to ask that that not get encumbered until July 1st, that we don't actually, we've approved the purchase, but let's not purchase it until,
July 1st.
no, it's not in this budget. And then when you encumber it after
You
this
like me to
meeting,
amend that
then we
motion,
carry
Mary,
that
to-
liability. So
Mary?
that's all I'd like to do, is ask that we actually make the purchase July 1st.
July 1.
Denied.
That motion need to be amended, Judge.
Then you have to change your budget. You want to do a budget adjustment?
Amend that motion to
Let's do it.
Okay.
say that we approve it.
Let's
The
vote on the
copier
amendment separately.
not to be
that
purchased.
The amendment to the copier purchase be
Like-
postponed until next FY, July 1 of this year. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'll second it.
And the motion made by Manager Simmons and seconded by Manager Short. We'll vote again, be technically proficient. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, the motion carries for that amendment on July 1. Thank you for that. Okay. Next, I think Mr. Campbell is up, and we're going to talk about Public Works and approval of, consideration of approval of salt bids. Discussion. I don't have an extra, but you.
It's amazing that we're talking salt 1st of July, right, or end of June, but anyway, that's where we are. I'm not sure what you had in your packet. Did you all receive information on the low bid on the salt in the packet? Well, last night, I was going through emails, and we received another email which actually gave us the listing or tabulation of the bids. So I forward this to Mary and to the judge. But anyway, we did receive 5 bids. The low bid for salt for this upcoming year was again from Detroit Salt Company, who we've used for several years now. The low bid was $69.77 per ton, delivered to Boyle County. That's about $20 thereabouts less per ton than what we paid last year, which is good. We anticipated that because the stockpiles are great this year, so the price goes down.
Oh, winners.
Last year, they used up all the stockpiles, so our price went up by about that much per ton. So that's just the way the salt fluctuates. I would also recommend, the last item, the last entry on this tabulation is Magic Salt.
What's the name?
Magic Salt, which y'all probably have seen, met the guy at your GACO meetings, maybe
Where are they from?
Louisville, the guy that owns the company's from Louisville, Bill Miner. But I would also recommend that we accept their bid as well. We may or may not purchase, this is an at-will contract this year, not a guarantee contract like last year's. This is a treated salt, which we may or may not purchase, through the winter some. If we have a really harsh winter, a really cold winter, this salt may actually help us do our job a little better than just the standard salt, which only works down to 25 degrees. So theoretically, around here, because the ground temperatures did work down to about 20, believe it or not, and then below that, you could tell it no longer works. But anyway, I would recommend that we accept the bid from Detroit Salt for $69.77, and also the bid from Magic Salt for $94.75. And I'm going to look into that more as to exactly what type of salt they have. What we've done in the past, when we've been able to have this type of salt available to us, I will purchase the regular untreated salt up until January, and then in January, I will begin as needed to purchase a little bit of treated salt to get us through January, because that's our coldest month and our toughest time to get the roads clear. And then once we reach February, if we're still using salt, the weather begins to moderate a little bit, I switch back to the untreated salt. So that just gives us a little bit of flexibility in doing our snow removal.
We have to guarantee so many ton, Dwayne?
Not this year. not this year. This is
Are-
just as-needed basis.
Are we gonna be responsible for the balance of last year? Have you heard anything more about that?
Nobody has sent us a letter, nobody has asked for it.
Okay,
I feel like Detroit Salt probably forgave that.
okay.
Dwayne, do we have a
Cargill,
bid?
those who had Cargill, they received a letter.
Oh,
What's,
okay.
Dwayne, what's the delivery time?
We don't have, I don't, yeah, there is, I don't have the agreement in front of me. There is a certain number of days that they have to make the delivery after an order is placed.
Dwayne.
Nice thing about Detroit Salt, they stock their salt in Lexington.
72 hours.
Okay. They stock their salt in Lexington, so they're very prompt in getting it to us when we place an order.
Do we have a bid from Magic on regular salt?
No, they just sell the treated salt. I don't
thank
think they sell the untreated. That's their business is, you know.
So your recommendation is to approve the 69.77 per ton for Detroit Salt as needed, and with Magic Salt at $94 and what?
$94.75,
$94.75 per ton as needed.
right.
Is there a motion to that effect on the approval of the salt bids, or is there any, let's get a motion.
I make a motion, Judge.
Second.
And a motion made by Magistrate Simmons and seconded by Magistrate Short. Any discussion on this further than what has been presented? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, and that motion carries.
I would add, if you remember, we approved advertising for bids. This was through the reverse auction through CAECO.
Keiko,
That's how these bids were obtained. Ann had a little bit of confusion. She started getting some registered mail, some packets into the office, and she thought we were receiving bids, but actually, each company is supposed to send us a copy of their bid. And so that's what we've been receiving in the office. And I'm hoping that maybe they have a contract in them or an agreement in them. We'll find out. If not, we'll just type one up. But anyway, that just to
Sounds
remind you of how these were obtained. Thank you.
thank you. All right, next on the agenda is discussion about the administrative code.
Here you go, sir.
Who'd like to start out? I have before me, over here in this stack, I have a authorization, a resolution, be it resolved by the Boyle County Fiscal Court, Commonwealth of Kentucky, the attached administrative code for Boyle County as revised is hereby adopted and approved on this 18th day of June 2020. So that is something that if anybody wants to see that, we'll sign, but we're discussing about changes to the administrative code, and Tom, I know that you've communicated on occasion several considerations that you would like to address.
Does everybody have the full code with you?
Yes.
Okay, good. Why don't we go ahead and stay with the full code? I think it'd be easier for you to follow if you didn't have my email printed out. First of all, it's come to light, not from anything that I've written up before, but with those who are absent, able to participate. I don't recall, Mary Judge, do you recall if we have anything outside to formalize having somebody participate off-site as we're doing, for example, with Magistrate Gay today? I know that Congress had to go through their rule book and make changes for that, and we might want to add a section, if it's not in there, and I don't think it's in, that would afford the opportunity formally to have participation from
It's
both.
worth consideration. I think the reason this is acceptable at this point in time is because of COVID-19 and the guidance that we've received from the state Attorney General's office on what is acceptable and right.
You know, in the future, if we don't have the emergency that we have now, we could have a locked vote and need that person from the outside. So if Chris could take a look at that, and it's just come to mind today with the circumstances that we have.
There is just to kind of piggyback on it, 61.826 talks specifically about video teleconferencing of meetings and what's required to be able to do that. And this is a statute, so this isn't specific.
That might take care of it.
So, well, it doesn't talk specifically about
Remote.
having
Remote.
one individual
Yeah.
remote with everybody else local. So I think, like you said, but I think that needs to be considered to be put in your administrative code, if we plan to do teleconferencing of meetings at any given time, just to have a safety net to allow us to do that.
Good.
So, is that something we want to refer to and put in this code? Because I can do that. No?
No, I think I would like the acceptance past COVID-19 of the flexibility to allow court member participation in remote locations by electronic means. I'm good with that, okay?
Yeah, if we were ever challenged on a tie vote, that would cover it if we had the language in there.
Yeah, no, I'm good with that being put in the administrative code.
Thank you,
Now,
Judge.
The reference to, I don't want to belabor the point because I'd like to get on through this, but the point that Mary just made is there's a lot of courts around the state that have for a long time video teleconference or video presented their court proceedings. And we have not done that in the past. But I think with this equipment purchase under COVID-19, that is definitely a way of the future for us.
Yes.
Okay?
And do we want to include that language in
Yeah,
there?
I think so.
I think so too.
Okay.
Do we want to, how do we want to, is this, Mary, is this something we need to vote on separately or individually if we go through to make those changes and that the court agrees upon those changes?
I would suggest that you do that so you're not confused about, after the fact, about what everybody
What
actually
everybody
voted
said.
for.
Okay, so,
I'll move.
the motion has been made to incorporate in the administrative code the language for remote voting capability that meets all criteria of either verbal or visual participation in court proceedings.
So move.
Second it.
Okay, and any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you, Jamie. All right, but all those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Appreciate that. Next.
I heard you and I'll work with y'all to get the correct language to help in that amendment.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Okay, next
On
time.
page 6, I guess it's been my understanding in the past until I had the opportunity to read this for the first time. When you go to 110 points 1, 2, and 3, it was my impression that the county judge executive pro tem would have what is under number 3. The deputy judge executive shall have all administrative powers as the judge. That's a pretty profound and comprehensive statement, and we do not have a deputy judge executive. Would it be wise to clarify that to, in our example, Magistrate Salmons having that sentence apply to the county judge executive pro tem?
Say that again.
Right now, it's if we had a county judge.
What item are you on?
All right, again, I'm on 6, 1, 10, parenthetical 3.
110.1, parenthetical 3.
The
Okay.
deputy judge executive shall have all administrative powers as the judge executive.
So there's a difference between a deputy judge executive and a pro tem.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
big difference.
We don't have one, and we have a very knowledgeable county pro tem. County
Well,
judge executive pro tem.
I think we'll leave it
Just
like
my
that.
observation, and Mary, correct me if I'm wrong on this. The deputy judge, as stated here, is administrative in functionality as appointed and approved as a recommendation by the judge should it ever occur. That person has administrative functionality. The pro tem of the court has legislative management in, oversight in the absence of the judge during the legislative session of the court. That's the difference as I see it.
The deputy judge executive is defined by statute.
By
Has
statute.
very limited powers. Primarily, they have no powers until the judge is out of the state, or out of the county, I should say, and/or in a state that they're not able to function.
Or incapacitated.
Incapacitated, thank you, Judge. And basically, they sign documents on their behalf.
Would that have to be a formal action if our judge executive were incapacitated?
No, it's under statute, that is.
But we don't have one, is my point, we'd have to appoint one.
And a lot of counties don't have deputy judge executives.
So who
A
does
lot
that
of counties
formal-
don't.
Very few of them do, just the larger counties have.
You know, usually you appoint a deputy judge executive if the judge becomes incapacitated.
So we could, that's my question.
But
We could-
most of the time, judges make, we work through certain job cycles, and the judge takes vacations or goes out of the county when it's appropriate, when he's not needed. I mean, he or she is not.
Yeah, we can take that action at that point.
Yes,
That's
you
all the
can.
better.
At
Okay.
any given time, you can.
At the bottom of the page, the last parenthetical, number 2, Judge, I think that's where we are on the language that you're working in. Chris, were you in when the judge was making that comment about how we would proceed on committee and other assignments earlier?
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question again?
Yes, the judge had some very good ideas about the nominations process for our committees and boards, et cetera, councils. Were you hearing that when it was going on 30 minutes ago?
Yes, I've been here the whole time, I got in on the order pledge.
And Judge, is that where you wanted that language changed?
Really, truly, that's where I would like the language changed, or even to the point of removing that section and stating, like I said earlier.
That's what I thought.
Because this 60 days is too restrictive and confining to give us the flexibility that the judge, whether it's me or anybody in the future, needs to be able to receive nominations for confirmation.
Right. So, Chris, I guess that's where you and the judge will work out the language right there.
We can do that today if you want, Chris, if you got time. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I can be free this afternoon.
Okay. All right.
All right, page 7, the next page, parenthetical number 5 is dead center in the middle of the page. Still relates to the same thing, so Chris, you might have to look at that entire section from the previous page. Second line ends with, within 30 days of making the appointment, and then the next line, fiscal court, and it doesn't make this reference, but you might want to consider for review and consideration, unless that goes in conflict, Judge, with what you were saying, that you would take from 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 nominees, and you'd come forward with one.
I'll come forward with one, and it'll be up or down at that
Then I
point.
think this change would not have to take place.
No.
This I didn't know weeks ago when we looked at this. Would we always, because I've been involved in this several times, where you have 2 and 3 nominees, and with the judge having the discretion on that one nominee, I would hope that there'd be some level of confidentiality, because I think that keeps from some embarrassments where somebody's, you know, very much in the wings, very enthusiastic about it, and thinks he or she might be nominated. But some level of confidentiality, Chris, that would keep us out of awkward circumstances. Could you consider some language like that?
I think, well, Chris, but in my understanding of parenthetical 5, it basically is null or moot based on the restructuring of number 2.
Okay.
Because I plan to entertain all committee appointments, irrespective of required or not required by statute.
Great, okay. Page number 8, I think it pretty much comes in with 110.4 and what follows. Chris, the new statute gives the court significant power with special taxing districts. that's been a lament of several of us in the past proceedings that we've had, where in a CAECO conference, for example, we heard that there are not several, but many boards out there that may have more money in reserve than fiscal court does. And we need, and I don't even think the regs have been written yet, because usually they're not required under state law until July 15. I don't think there was an emergency clause on the one referring to special taxing districts, but I would hope that we could get some revision, and it might have to come after we vote on this administrative code, that we amend it in the future, but just how much latitude we have to tell a special taxing district, no, we're protecting our tax dollars and our taxpayers' dollars.
So, Magistrate Ellis, there's a statute, 65A 110, that details all of that information out in 3 different pages. And there's language in there that the fiscal court needs to consider for their administrative code for procedures for SPGEs, special governmental entities. But this doesn't go into effect until January 1, 2021. So it doesn't have to be considered at this given point in time. But the county judge, this is the only time that the fiscal court can have input into changes in the administrative code, is right at this time. But the county judge can bring this back to the fiscal court, let's say in the fall, and present language once maybe you go to the next legislative session to make sure that they're going to keep this language, and then add that before, because we don't have to, because we don't have to do this in September when we have the new taxing districts. I mean, the taxing districts come in and just announce their tax rate, because there's a requirement of that currently, but there's no action required. It's just
Or allowed.
It's just or allowed. It's just a platform where the public understands what's going on with their tax rates. So I think this is something that needs to be clarified later on after the legislative body meets in Frankfurt.
And because the legislation or the law gives the judge executive the latitude to bring that back.
Good.
For inclusion into the administrative code, I request that we pass over that until a later date when we can all be more informed about the statute changes and vote on it.
It's a significant protection of the taxpayer. It really is. On number 10, Chris, reading the language of 220.7, and I know that I'm very respectful and supportive of Magistrate Cullen on this. I think with the media circumstances that are going on all across the country, and we can find examples next door where they're already to a weekly in many of our counties. I don't think we have to spend the big bucks to go to the 2 major newspapers in the state, which was a discussion we had 3 or 4 months ago. I think we're good with the circulation in the county, the general circulation in the county being the Advocate Messenger. And we don't want to spend those big dollars that Magistrate Cullen mentioned several months ago.
I don't think we have a lot of control over that.
Well, I have, again, as I mentioned in the fiscal court meeting when we had this conversation the last time, I've talked to a lot of different counties and to the Department for Local Government, and most counties in the state do not have
Wait daily.
they do not have a daily newspaper. And they are all, and have been audited, and I've not been able to find a statute that says that it has to be daily.
Good.
And it's the daily, well, Department for Local Government has always trained treasurers that it was a daily newspaper of general circulation in your area. And I think that term was used regularly because there were multitudes of newspapers in a general area that competed against one another, and not all of them daily. So that's where the daily came from. But I think that, and I feel very confident that if we advertise and or put in legal notices of our local newspaper, even though it's not a daily paper, it is a newspaper of general circulation
Correct.
in our area.
So we should not have a concern there.
No,
Well,
I
what-
don't have a concern.
No.
The concern we should have, and we should be lobbying our state, is that at the time this was enacted, that was the only way for the public to be informed.
Correct.
We're in a much different situation where we don't have to keep utilizing services like the newspaper, so we should be lobbying our state senate and representatives to allow us to utilize the resources that we have, whether it be our website, social media, those things to get out information, which would save taxpayers a lot of money instead of utilizing a system that not many people read, especially, I mean, it shows that their readership's gone down, so they're only printing 2 days a week, and that's pretty much everywhere with print. So we really should, I don't know whether we do it via resolution.
I think the problem is that our website, because we have lobbied this before, it's not a new, whenever we
understand.
started bringing up websites, there's certain things. Now, the legislature has allowed us to utilize the website in lieu of the newspaper only, I believe, on tax, certain tax notices. But what the legislature sees is that everybody has access to the newspaper. You can get a newspaper in Portland, but not everybody has access to the Boyle County website to understand what's going on. So because of that inability and irregularity, they have always left that newspaper of general circulation in
I would
the
argue
statute.
with that, because
Well-
if I were to try to, like, say we did advertise in the Herald Leader for whatever reason that I would hate to do, you don't have access to that newspaper.
No,
You
I'm
actually,
talking about the Advocate Messenger.
no, I understand that, but say the Advocate Messenger went away, though, and we only had the option of going to the Herald Leader. The Herald Leader, in order to view, like, online content, you have to actually pay for it or whatever. So, where our website is free, newspapers are not. So
I think
so-
routinely what we were talking about at that time, everybody pretty much has a local newspaper
Yeah.
throughout the state. So
Well,
that's
so
the only response I was trying
What,
to
what
make.
I was alluding to is that, I don't know if the rest of the court feels this way, but, I think we need to revisit that topic and maybe send some sort of statement or resolution over to the state to say, can we please revisit this? Especially when we're in a time that we need every tax dollar we can in order to function as a county government.
I know KCO was already on this during the last General Assembly, also for years understanding the appropriate power and strength of the Kentucky Press Association and the public's right to know. I think the only way that we could win this along your model, Magistrate Cullen, would be and/or. If the Press Association had to fight it and/or so that we can do it in the manner that you're
Yeah.
describing, I think that could be taken through KCO, and a legislative draft would be more acceptable to all parties and possibly be passed in the next General Assembly.
Okay. What else you got, Tom?
Yeah, I think there's space for reform in Frankfurt, regarding that, because, advocate. Days now, it makes it difficult to meet our, certain requirements sometimes of advertising and so forth when a certain time period. And, it would be nice if they opened it up, like maybe, be able to advertise, on 2 different forms of, internet, communication or whatever, like through Facebook and through our website. But there definitely needs to be some reform, because if the Advocate goes out of business one day, then what do we do next? I mean, do we advertise in the Harrodsburg Herald, or do we have to go to start advertising in the Lexington Herald, which is probably going to cost us a lot more money. So definitely there needs to be some reform, and we should talk to Daniel Elliott about that.
There is legislation that was approved that newspapers can only charge up to a certain amount for governmental legal notices that's a statewide statute. So just for information purposes.
On page 16, your Blue Cross, that chance of Texas, Wildlife, Georgia, whatever your health care coverage might have been through the years, has always been hit very hard very hard by uncompensated care. A year ago, I started to bring this up in one of our meetings, but was discouraged with all the other things that I was learning at the time. But I think our uncompensated care of EMS, which we did address several months ago, really needs to be looked at carefully, because it's a very large ticket number that the taxpayer ends up paying. Chris, if you could look through that and find out, and perhaps work with Director Rogers and talk about that function of collecting uncompensated care. It's tough. It is very, very tough. And you have to pay a very aggressive entity, which we already have one. But we are losing significant 6, if not 7-figure dollars of our taxpayers' money by uncollected emergency runs and other things related to it.
Are we not
I
using
just need to respond to that.
third-party debt collector? Do we not use that?
Yeah, we have a third, and that's what I was gonna respond to. We do use a third-party debt collector. And we feel like it's very beneficial, the one that we're using is because it's the same one that the hospital used. And so the hospital has a lot of people working with a third-party collector, and between the two have a lot of success in finding individuals' addresses after they've moved, and because we piggyback off of the hospital, we're more apt to collect than to pay somebody a whole lot more money, because we're not actually receiving. I have to remember exactly what we're I don't know if it's a 50-50 or we're not getting a whole lot, but we're getting some. But again, the hospital is, once we transport somebody to the hospital then ends up not being paid as well. So that's why we're using the same one as the hospital. So unless there's one out there that somebody can find that could do better in our area, that is as agreeable in price as this agency, then we can also talk about that in a.
Mary, you will remember real well that I opposed that when we came. Somebody recommended that because I didn't think, and I still don't think, we get enough revenue coming in from a debt collector to jeopardize the good name of a court, fiscal courts. You got a debt collector out there, and as long as they don't use our name, it's okay. But I just don't like the idea of a debt collector collecting for fiscal court.
It's a perennial issue through all healthcare. It's just a very tough thing, but we want to try to protect our taxpayer dollars as best we can.
Well, you don't get that much coming in. I mean, it's very
Well,
little.
when we're audited, one of the questions that they ask the treasurer on a regular basis is, how are you collecting revenue that should be paid to the county? And so I have to answer that question with affirmation about what we're actually doing, not leaving money up on the table that should be paid to the taxpayer.
Thank you. I'm going to skip over quite a bit because a lot of it from tradition is obviously working very well, and I'm still new enough not to know all the questions to ask. So I won't prolong the discussion on this. On page 21, purchasing and contracts.
You skipped my section.
Oh, that's because you're so professional. That's easy. That's very
I'm
easy.
glad you're moving fairly fast.
Go ahead, I'm sorry,
I didn't wanna be
Mr.
here
Della,
all day.
go right ahead.
No, I'm serious when I say that. We love you, Mary. We do a fabulous job.
Moving right along, Tom.
410.0 all the way down to, well, actually only down to 420.4 toward the bottom of the page, second to last entry. Now this is where Magistrate Cullen might appropriately debate me on this, but I think we ought to have at the end of the sentence, the third sentence, considered in the bid selection, including the rights to accept the lowest, best local bid.
Where are you precisely?
420.4, second
Second from the
sentence.
bottom, on page 21. I think we ought to have a bias toward local businesses, employers, employees, and what makes our county stronger.
Does that hem us into only doing local, what your statement was?
It
Yeah,
doesn't
it
say
does-
only.
Well, it does hem us a little bit. I would prefer the term or the word preferenced with
I'd go with that.
county
easily.
first. If
At the
there's
lowest
no,
best.
with the preference to county first.
I like
and then
that.
the others as necessary.
Yeah, yeah. I think we often talk about that, and I know Magistrate Salmons always asks that question, did we look locally? And I think we ought to always have some preference, as the judge says.
Okay.
I think that term sets the standard that we start there, and if there's nothing there, we go outside further.
It's the only thing you can do.
Should be that way.
Yeah.
Should be that way. So I'm acceptable to the term preference.
Should be
Thank
keeping local.
So it would say considered in the bid selection with a preference to county vendors first.
Yeah, I like that better than my word local, because local could be contiguous counties.
Okay,
Yep.
got it.
Okay? Next.
Did you want to vote, did we vote on that?
No, okay. Well, let's vote on the motion to include the word preference as read by the treasurer. I need a motion on that effect.
So moved.
By Magistrate Ellis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Magistrate Salmons. Discussion on adding the word preference under the 420.4 in our administrative code. Any questions? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, and the motion carried unanimously. Thank you.
Page 24, Dwayne. Do you have a copy? Okay, the sentence under 510.1, near the top of the page, reads, the department consisting of a county road engineer and public
Or,
works
and/or.
director.
And/or.
And/or, I'm sorry.
And/or.
We don't have, never have had to. You're it, aren't you?
We have had a road supervisor at one time, but we retired and filled that position.
A
He
supervisor,
retired,
but not a
he
director.
retired, and we never did hire another.
So I mean, the word might be wrong.
Well, I think the statute refers to a supervisor, but the fiscal court has always substituted the term director as
Director.
opposed to supervisor.
Is that okay with everybody?
It is with me.
Okay, it just jumped off the page.
The director, in my personal opinion, is a person of appointed authority. A supervisor could be mid-level, low-level. I like the term director better.
510.4,
Okay?
all appointments to the Public Works Department. Dwayne, would that be appointments or all employment in the Public Works Department?
Appointment and employees are the same thing.
Okay. I'm doing I haven't used that
What
one.
else, Tom? Moving right along.
All right, this clarifies something that's already gone on in two locations that I'm familiar in the last year plus. On 25, the last entry, 540.1, I would just clarify that sentence. The fiscal court, in accordance with KRS 179, may accept private rather than county roads into the county system. It's redundant to say county roads into the county system. This is Neal Road, for example, if they really decided to buy into their own land.
I think that's what the statute says. That's the language that's in the statute, so that's.
I know those guys don't always get it right in the LRC,
Huh?
but it says county roads into the county.
It says KRS Chapter 179, it says fiscal court in accordance with KRS 179 may accept county roads, which are roads in the county, into the county system with minimal specifications set forth in Ordinance 620.2.
I'm saying private.
Those in the county.
That's how you
Yeah,
explain it.
yeah.
that-
Your explanation is correct.
But this is a clarification to say private becoming,
Are there any roads out there that are not private that are roads that are,
There are roads out there that are private, that are not county, that are not county maintained.
no, I know that, but are there any roads out there that may not be
We
on
don't-
private
we
land
don't
that are not
maintain
in the
private
county
roads.
road system?
yes.
These roads are not on.
Dry fork.
So if you develop a subdivision and that's private property, when somebody has a farm and they have private property, when you start adding private, how does that become a county road? I guess it would be private, never mind.
I don't see harm.
We've got one in my district.
And there are two in mine that I'm aware of.
Well, we've
That
got.
are not private, on private.
I mean, it's private, but it's county maintained. So it's the one there.
Dwayne found on that one.
It is?
Yeah, all cemetery roads are private are,
It's been my explanation of the one off of Kings Mill that the bus uses. It's a private road, it's not open to the public, but
Okay, it's maintained specifically for the purpose of the bus or
Bus,
bus turnaround, not as a public road.
right.
Don't
Yeah,
we have
so
that
it's-
one where you and I had the discussions, to say the least, about going over somebody's land to get to their cemetery? That's another one that's kind of awkward.
And we do have some cemetery roads that we maintain, but they have been entered into the county road system. So most of
And
them,
yet we still have controversy out of that lady out there.
yes,
But mine is a little different, I guess,
right.
which is how we like to do it in four.
okay.
It's going to be, subject to the action that we're going to file, regarding down there, the Jody Sharp situation, that we need to clarify, and also, that we're working with Steve Hunter and so forth on that, we've previously discussed in our court. We need to, definitely change that, because we might not want to accept roads based on the specifications set forth in Chapter 179. I think we can modify that. So definitely, I think 540.1's one that we'll need to work with Steve Hunter on to adapt to what we're expecting, especially for new developments and so forth, as far as how many homes need to be 50% occupancy of lots and so forth on streets before you accept it and so forth like that.
Hey,
Aren't we waiting on a court decision on
We're
that?
waiting on a court ruling on that, is that correct?
Hey, we're in a courtroom, can we roll on it right now?
We're working on our
Dwayne, you're in charge.
our action, and we're almost ready to file. So
Okay.
probably, after we have more, once the court makes a ruling, then definitely we'll look at that and, adapt our ordinance, our regulation, depending on how the court rules.
I think it's a very smart approach, whoever came up with that.
thank you, Chris.
All right, how do we proceed on this issue of observation by you, Magistrate Ellis?
I think anything Chris can give us for input that might be added, whether it's the word private or something else.
I don't know that we can fully address this to the extent that you want it addressed until the court makes a determination
Correct.
of what is appropriate.
Correct. I'd suspend it and come back to it at a later date, since you have discretion as judge executive, and it's worked for these years. But we do have these awkward situations that Magistrate Cullen.
Don't deny that. Don't deny that.
And I think Mary gave the good explanation. And the KRS, I think, has that wording. The roads they're referring to are roads that are in the county.
Yeah.
Right.
Within the county boundaries, I guess,
Gotcha.
maybe, but, yeah.
It's on you, Chris. Now, gentlemen, at the risk of disappointing you, that's all that I'm gonna bring up.
Thank you for that disappointment, Magistrate
No.
Ellis. I appreciate your candor.
Judge, that's impossible.
When you want to see my full draft?
Judge, you didn't talk for 30 minutes.
I just hope that
I
Magistrate
have all
Ellis,
the statutes that.
I'm impressed with him.
Pull them and read them.
I just hope that Magistrate Ellis gets all of his Sharpies and highlighters from DOE, because they will be set for life.
No, I take it for my bounty.
All right, next on the agenda, moving right along, as some of us say, we have committee reports. Who would like?
So are we gonna
Okay.
pass that resolution?
Yeah,
or-
we'll pass this as it relates to the administrative code. I would ask for a I'm gonna read this again, okay? This is resolution number 2006.06.18. be it resolved by the Boyle County Fiscal Court, Commonwealth, Kentucky, that attached administrative code for Boyle County as revised is hereby adopted and approved on this date, June of 2020.
I'll
Motion
second
made to approve by Magistrate Ellis and seconded by Magistrate Cullen. Discussion on the resolution for approval. There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. And the motion carries unanimously. Thank you for that.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I will
for
sign
your
that,
patience.
and
Mary.
we answered the mail on that. So, next, I think next is committee reports, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
All right?
Boyle County Solid Waste Committee met on Tuesday, June the 2nd at 10 o'clock in the Government Service Center. Present was Magistrate Sammons, me, and Angie. Angie reported that she had been working on the storm water protection plan for all convention centers. A groundwater protection plan was approved last physical court meeting. Had a one-day tire event. That was at Perryville in May the 31st. I wish I knew it. She showed us the new portable paper grinder and was built and purchased with grant funds. She is making plans to have more safe documents shredding opportunities for Boyle County residents. Training has begun for nearly hired, floated, Sam's Emerson. She also made us aware that she is in need of another floater, part-time position. One employee had a stroke while working and has not returned to work. We adjourned at 11 o'clock.
Move for approval of the minutes.
I second that.
All right, any discussion on the solid waste committee minutes? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Next.
I'll go. Boyle County EMS Committee met on June 9th at around 8 a.m. Present were Director Rogers, Magistrate Kaywood, myself, and Major Wesley. Kind of a brief meeting. We discussed a couple new hires that were presented at the last fiscal court meeting, and we also talked about select medical. We discussed sorry, went blank there. We discussed some people out on FMLA and got into a discussion about pay a little bit. Previously, we had raised the pay of part-time people, and now we're starting to get some information that the full-time were kind of feeling left out, which I'm sure all of you remember I said would probably happen, but we discussed it, and we're trying to find ways to help with morale. We appreciate everything that EMS does, and we closed out right around 8:50. And I'll submit that for your approval.
All right, motion has been made to submit the EMS minute reports. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Magistrate Short. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Next.
Animal control. Magistrate Short and I met with Animal Control, Humane Society, I should say, which consists of James Good, Jacob Woodruff, Christina Lombard. We met on June 2nd at 11 o'clock. We learned that the place was exceptionally clean, very professional, like people handling our Humane Society. And one shock to me was the fact that we only had 7 dogs in the entire compound and 0 cats, which was another shock, pleasant shock. So we discussed the situation on how they've got a grant, they have a grant that spades the cats, and they've got a program that takes care of them, and everything was going well. Jacob had been bitten the week before by a pit bull in the hand, nothing real serious. When he was getting ready to load the dog bit him. So he learned not to grab the dog in the rear end when he's putting him in a cart. So we talked and had a very good meeting. Meeting lasted 11:33, at which time we adjourned. I make a motion we approve this committee report.
Second.
All right, motion made by Magistrate Salmon and seconded by Magistrate Short to approve the animal control minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, and motion carries. Thank you. Next.
Make a motion we adjourn.
No, not yet. I would agree with the motion, but it's a little bit premature in that I want to allow each magistrate to go around the room with new business, please.
Real quick, remember to get me a copy of your minutes so I can put it in the book for the auditors, because I'm missing a few, so thank you.
That's right.
Okay, we'll go around the room, starting with Magistrate Gay.
Thank you, Judge, and thanks everybody for your patience with me being out of town in a way. I just want to mention a few things from the Black Lives Matter meeting that occurred the other night at Pioneer Playhouse, and I'm hoping that we can move forward with some implicit bias training that needs to be organized maybe through HR in conjunction with the Human Rights Commission that we just took action on today, appointing. So I think that's one of the things. And then the other thing is the review board concept that was talked about. And I'm not sure what that looks like or where that falls, but I guess as I've been thinking about it, it seems like that could possibly be rolled into the ethics commission or ethics boards that we have with the city and county. So I'd appreciate the county attorney's input and thoughts on that. But otherwise, that's all I have.
Pastor Gay?
Yes.
If you would make that a motion, I think that's an excellent idea about the ethics committee taking that responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be glad to do that, but and I don't know. I think we may need to have a little bit more just dialogue and conversation about it. But I think that seems to be the most logical place for that to fall as far as that review board. But again, I would like the county attorney to look at that and see if that's something we can add into their role.
Let's take a little time.
Hold on that till later.
Yeah, let's take a little time to allow the county attorney. I am not opposed to that conceptual idea. I think it's prudent, but I'd like for Chris and Magistrate Gay and others to come up with a motion presented so that the whole public can know how we're responding to review incidents that they need to be aware of.
Logical and appropriate. Very good idea.
Okay, so.
All right, thank you. That's all.
Is that all, Magistrate Gay? Believe it is. Next, Magistrate Short.
Yes, me and Dwayne went to the Junction City this past Thursday at their council meeting, and to let them know that the court has given them playground equipment that we purchased 4 years ago, and they was really overwhelmed and pleased that we did this. So they all thanked the fiscal court for donating to, the playground equipment to there. So I think we're gonna get started on that pretty quickly to get that done. And But, and I thank Dwayne for being there for my back, so.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
I'm not trying to rush or anything, but here's what I want to think. I remember the discussion that we authorized it to go to Junction City, the box equipment that we didn't have. I think I would like to have a motion that they would surplus that property out of inventory with the caveat that it is donated by the county to Junction City.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Second.
Okay.
And what we did last meeting was we authorized Jamie, Magistrate Short to start having discussions with the city on places to find,
Yes.
to place it. And I think the next logical step would be then you start surplusing.
So we need to mark that equipment as surplus and donated. And the motion is made by Magistrate Short and seconded by Magistrate Ellis. Is there any discussion on that motion?
Well, now that Mayor Douglas has a nice little pocket full of cash from surplus, if he wants to make a donation to the county, we'll take it, you know.
Well, I asked if they would donate some money, but
No, I'm just kidding. No, I think that equipment was purchased with taxpayer dollars. I'm just kidding.
It's going to taxpayer benefit.
Junction pays taxes too.
they wouldn't.
Could we include in your motion, no cost to the county as we did when we discussed it with Perryville and Portland last time?
Absolutely, no cost to the.
Yeah, well, they realized that there was be no cost to the county, so.
Well, the assembly and putting it in the ground is gonna cost your city.
Yeah, Junction City knows that they're gonna have to,
I think it's formal, it's good to surplus it legally and make that statement
Okay,
about
the
no
amendment
cost.
is at no cost.
Dwayne, do you
I
want to say
think-
something on that?
I think that's a good point, Tom, because there will be some concrete that will have to be purchased. There may be some additional mulch, maybe that will have to be purchased at some point, so I think that's a good point.
Well, I think they voted while they was there that, they would have to purchase extra mulch and all that.
Yep.
And the committee agreed to do that, so,
If you'll amend your motion, I'll second.
As amended.
okay, I'll make the
No,
motion.
no cost to the county.
Yeah.
Second.
Seconded by Magistrate Ellis, motion as amended by Magistrate Short. Discussion further? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion carries. Thank you for that. Anything else?
No.
All right, let's see who's next. I guess, you, Magistrate Cullen.
Is me. This will be much shorter than normal.
Much appreciated.
Yeah. So, well, I hate to take it. I really, the Boyle County Fire Department is near and dear to my heart. I appreciate that volunteer service greatly. And I get the pleasure of getting to not only go to a lot of their board meetings, but also Chief Sexton's been very good to me when I show up at a scene. He'll allow me to trail behind him and kind of get an idea of what's happening, what those firefighters go through. And so we've just had a situation here. I mean, we've had many, but we had a situation where a young man's life was lost at Lake Harrington, and I get text alerts every time something's going on with the fire department, and just seeing everything that they had to go through to try to find this young man, and then eventually, just a couple nights ago, recovering his body. As a father, I'm heartbroken for Emmanuel's family and for Emmanuel, but I'm so grateful for the hours and the love that our Boyle County Fire Department has for this community, and just wants to do all they can to try to help again on a volunteer basis. So very grateful for them, for Chief Sexton and the great crew that he has out there. And as a county magistrate, I am heartbroken for Emmanuel's family.
Absolutely.
So I just, this was not the ending any of us wanted. But we're glad there's some closure for his family.
Yeah.
I'm concerned that.
Magistrate, excuse me, I'm having a little hard time hearing you on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Who's heartbreaking about who?
So there was a young man from Madison County that was swimming.
Yes, definitely. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So they recovered his.
Yes.
And from what I understand, he was recovered pretty much where he went in, but there's so much in that lake that it just enabled him not to be able to come back up. So So while we had the discussion of not funding the pool, you know, because the pool's not going to be open, and that's going to be a heartbreak because we're going to find lots of kids this summer and adults that will be going swimming, finding places to swim that aren't safe. We're having a huge problem in my neck of the woods with the bridge out off the Chenault Bridge. People are using that not in the right capacity. So please be careful. Please be smart, and please watch out for your friends and family. And I know that the Salvation Army was very, very helpful, and we're grateful for them as well with all that the search went through. Now, I can't speak because I didn't have quite the relationship I'm sure that some others had, but I am also heartbroken for Philip Dean and his children on the loss of Lynn. You know, from the interactions I had with her, a bright individual that really did care about this community. And I would say that we definitely need to close this meeting in her memory and have prayers for that family. And I'm sure that that Mary and Phil and John, you know, can give much more information about their relationship with her. But it's sad to see someone that fought so strong for this county that passed away at such an early age. So that is all I have.
Well, appreciate both those comments, Magistrate Cullen. And for the record, I would also like to echo both of those observations or statements by you regarding Miss Lynn Dean and her service to this county. It will be an honor to adjourn this session in her memory.
Who's that, Judge?
Lynn Dean.
Lynn Dean. Did she pass away?
Yes, sir.
Sir,
And
a couple nights ago.
so we will adjourn court in her memory today with a prayer for her family. The other statement I want to put on the record in agreement with Magistrate Cullen is about our exceptional Boyle County volunteer fire department and the service they provided. In talking with Chief Sexton out on the site a couple of days ago, the day they found Emmanuel, that they had exhausted every resources that had been provided voluntarily from Ohio and Tennessee and Alabama. And what a lot of people don't know, and I'm not going to get into the details, but we had a diver that is a volunteer Boyle County firefighter that dove in recovery efforts to nearly 80 feet in that lake is extremely hazardous. And these are the kind of people we have serving this county. And I want that noted in the record that I am greatly appreciative of Chief Sexton, his efforts as a on-scene commander, and those additional efforts provided by our sheriff's office to secure the area, and also Director Wilder and his efforts to communicate with the family that was housed at the Danville Christian Academy, and for those, along with, I would be remiss if I did not mention Captain Jimmy Kaufman and his efforts to make this situation as best it could be. So, enough said on those. Thank you for that opportunity. We'll go next to Magistrate Ellis.
Thank you,
No,
Judge.
excuse me. I'm going around the room in my mind, Magistrate Short.
How about
Oh,
you?
he already
You
spoke.
done it, Magistrate Ellis?
Okay.
Magistrate Ellis and then Magistrate Samuels.
Thank you, Judge. I'll dovetail into the discussion of Magistrate Short about the playground equipment going to Junction. I too opened up informal conversations with both Perryville City Council and leadership out at Forkland, and they are more than enthusiastic. I made sure that they were aware of the judge's caution that with this being last generation playground equipment, there could be liabilities. Neither of the parties with whom I've been talking have any objection to language, Chris, that we can develop to make sure that the county has no liability in turning over any and all of that equipment from White's Park. Secondly, Dwayne, you'll be happy to know that they are fully understanding that there are going to be big piers of concrete under some of that equipment, and that if we vote to give them that opportunity by surplusing this equipment, when they take it out of the ground, they will have a crew, they will have equipment of their own, and they will put the ground back as it is without the equipment, and if needed, seeded or whatever is needed to put it back right to make that park as pristine as it is now.
So you'll present a motion to that effect?
I will absolutely pose the motion that, and one more thing on that, John Bell is thrilled that somebody's going to get use out of it. He sees the liabilities that the judge mentioned in our last meeting, and therefore I made sure that he knew and is aware of the fact that we will be protecting the county from a legal standpoint, Chris. I do move that the equipment at White's Park be deaccessioned, be surplused out for the discretion on, as you said, Judge, governmental properties or private entity properties, as Portland is.
Well, it's still, as the community center for the community of Portland, I think can be construed, Chris. They may not be chartered, but I believe, I look at it as a governmental entity. I want to be technically, legally correct about that.
Okay, Chris, we'll make sure we're good on that.
Privately, I'm still opposed to it because of,
Yes.
of statute.
Right. And they have a work crew that will work for both communities, and I make the motion that it be surplused out for the use of Portland and Perryville City Council.
At
City
no
government.
expense to the county.
At no expense to the county.
Second it.
Thank you.
Motion made by Magistrate Ellison, seconded by Magistrate Short. Discussion?
Do we need the language first to make sure, I mean, the city of Perryville is fine, but do we need any sort of language from Chris before?
You know, I can probably add to this. You make appropriations every year to agencies who have their own finances and their own boards, and
Which Portland does.
Yeah.
Portland
Yes,
does.
it does.
And so I don't see any reason why you can't declare it surplus and make an appropriation of equipment as opposed to cash
I agree.
to an entity.
I love it.
Any different than anybody else. I mean,
And no discussion.
Thank you, Mayor.
it's being used for a public use.
Yes.
And that's the requirement by the Constitution.
Right.
Great.
So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, sorry, Chris.
And center or whatever, and they're not technically affiliated with Boyle County. They're their own private entity that we don't give funding to and so forth, right?
But you heard Treasurer
I know I
Connolly.
didn't have that.
Oh, you may not have heard Treasurer Connolly's discussion of that. She will repeat it for the record. Okay?
Chris, we make appropriations annually through our budget to nonprofit organizations with using those cash funds, well, in the form of a check, obviously, for a public use. And, you know, the same thing, and that kind of goes along the same thing with Portland. Portland has a board, they have their own finances, and submit a 990 at the end of every year. And so I don't see it any different than giving an appropriation to Portland, any different than giving an appropriation to the agency that distributes shoes amongst the children in Boyle County. So we declare it surplus, and we're giving equipment as opposed to, you know, cash money.
And Judge and Mary, Dwayne in particular, in my discussions with John Bell, we both agreed that with scrap metal at the price that it is, and the labor that the county would have to undergo to take all that equipment out, and it's deep in the ground, some of it, we probably would come out in a negative circumstance financially for the taxpayer if we paid in your crew and their equipment to pull it out of the ground and then took it and scrapped it ourselves. And that's why there's value to the two communities to having this for perpetuity as long as they can keep it in good shape.
All right, thank you. Duly noted.
We voted, let's go.
We have voted on that.
Yes, we have.
Okay. All right.
More here, Judge.
Yes.
I'm aware of one circumstance, Bill, we need your help. I can't understand where, someone from the public with responsibility and magistrates, some of our emails went to junk mail. And we'll have to talk about that privately, but I hope nobody else experiences that, because it caused an individual not to be participating in some of the discussions. And I can't imagine how.
I can speak to that. Those are parameters that are set up by the ISP. Until we go to our own Outlook 365 or Gmail or some of the things that we can control, I have no control over that.
Well, since it's happened in my circumstance, I will make sure to follow up with phone calls and or texts that have been working with individuals, because, you know, we don't want people not to be involved in
For those that do have that with our current provider, I can sit down with you, and if you will give me those email addresses that you do get that way, I can put them in what's called the whitelist for the QX folks, and that would help resolve that issue.
Thank you, Bill. Portland has asked me again, unless, Dwayne, something's happened that I'm unaware of, their grounds, our fire department out there, and we've talked to them over a year to improve that road from 37 on back to the fire department. Has anything happened on that?
That's still on the Allen Company's list because of the cutbacks. That section of 37 was not resurfaced or has not been resurfaced yet. That's when they were going to get that, when they were down there doing that work.
That's when the state releases the funds to pay for the resurfacing, and because of, I guess, COVID-19, it's in suspension right now.
Thank you, okay. All right, and the last thing I have, I brought up last time, and I will get with Dwayne and Chris as well. I've gotten a couple more concerns, this time from the standpoint of safety of the folks cutting through on Mill Street and blindsiding people, both up at the post office and at the other end, up there by our old fire station. They very much want to close that off. And really, when you look at it, there's only one household that probably would use it as their driveway, and we would be turning a public road over to a private sector if we can accomplish that. And I want to get with you to make it as amenable to Dollar General as we possibly can, because then they have the site circumstances with the dumpster, with the huge LP gas tank, and the lighting is just absolutely illuminating that whole side of Mill Street all night long. They're hoping that Dollar General will work with us on that. So I'll get with you, Dwayne.
Now, as far as the road closure, there is a KRS. There's a statute that governs that, and there are certain guidelines that have to be followed, and that's what I tried to construe to Mr. What's the gentleman's name there?
Well, that's okay. We don't need it in public.
The resident that's kind of pursuing this and asking about this. Yeah. I had that conversation with him and tried to explain to him the steps that need to be taken, because it is in statute. It's not just something that we, the court, just say, okay, yeah, we're going to close this road and you can have it. There are certain guidelines that have to be followed.
Okay, all right. I'll continue pursuing that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Magistrate Simmons.
Judge, I promise not to talk as long, but I talk faster than Magistrate Ellis, so I'll make mine short and sweet, okay? First of all, a lot of you probably know, I know Magistrate Short and Mary know him real well. Donnie Kaufman, ex-magistrate, had hip surgery Monday, and Lexington Hospital, and I figured he'd die on the table, but I got a call from him yesterday, and he said he'd had surgery and doing fine. They'd had him up, and he didn't have any pains, and he was really excited about that. So that's one good news. The sad thing, and I come with my heavy heart this morning, is the fact that a young lady died yesterday with a heart attack. You all know or heard of Congressman Barr in Lexington area. He's not our congressman, but a real nice person. His wife, his father, is a personal friend of mine, and you all know her uncle, Joe Level, who's a magistrate over at Gary County. So I just ask you to keep Congressman Barr and his two little girls in your prayers. Oh, that's a sad situation. Judge, that's all I have, sir.
Appreciate that, Magistrate Sammons. That's a good call on your part, and we should all be respectful of Congressman Barr's loss. Not only that, but we should lift them up in prayer, the family that has survived. So we will do that individually on our own. I guess it's my turn. I have one thing I would like for the court to consider. Well, I have two things I'd like for the court to consider, or one to consider and one statement I want to make. You know, when we adjusted our appropriations last time, we took money away from the Bluegrass Center for the Arts, and I think it was a total of about $2,000. And they have not approached me, and I got to thinking about it, and we took money away from them that had been previously appropriated in the court session before, which was a reduction from their asking price. They did nothing to earn a reduction of the previously approved appropriation. I mean, they did nothing negative to impact where we use that $2,000 to go to other agencies, which is okay. But I would like for the court, and I would like to make a motion to the court to reinstate that $2,000 for the Center of Bluegrass, because they, like others, are having challenges in meeting their obligations right now during this COVID-19. I just want to throw it out for consideration, because I think we ineffectively penalize them for no apparent reason.
I don't think, okay, so I'm gonna take this one personally. I didn't do it, penalty thing is going to have lasting effects for not just this year, but next year as well. So we need to be responsible. We needed to be responsible, you know, when this whole thing started, by really watching everything that was being spent and start cutting things down. But we didn't, so we really have to watch where we're spending stuff.
Magistrate Cullen, I don't think $2,000 is going to hurt us that much. So I'd go along with the judge. I'll make a motion we do.
Well, now, I just want to throw it out for consideration. I am not accusing anybody of any malintent toward any function of the appropriation. That's not the reason the statement was. I said it could have the unintended effect of, you know, appearing that we're penalizing, and I don't think that was never the intent.
No.
Never the intent, okay? I just feel like we appropriated in a meeting prior to that the $12,000. If I'm not
So
mistaken.
does that mean we have to take CASA's money back? Because we didn't give them money in the first meeting, and then we gave them money.
No.
So I'm trying to understand the rationale behind this.
Judge, I'll second your motion.
Well,
What are we giving them now? We went back to 10,000?
They're getting $10,000 from us, and they.
But we cut them from 15 from last year to the 12, so you all agreed to do a certain amount of percentage of cut.
We cut EDP by 30,000.
I'm relaying to what we did with the rationale that was orated in the last meeting.
The one thing I didn't see was how much rent they pay for that building. Do we know?
City owns the building.
City owns the building.
I don't know, I take that back. City helps maintain the building. I think they pay a debt service for that building.
The city does, or
No,
the center.
the art center does. They pay a debt service on that building.
I think we need to bring this back, if we've got time, because you've got you've got Kaywood out.
That is true, but we have 5 out of 6, so we have a quorum.
Yeah, we do have.
We have a quorum. I'd call for a question.
Okay, the motion has been made by Magistrate Sammons to reinstate $2,000 back to the center, seconded by Magistrate Ellis. Now we can have discussion about it, and I just threw it out as something that I saw that it wasn't wrong. It's not wrong.
Unintended consequence.
It was an unintended consequences that could have an appearance of, I don't know, but I don't see that any other appropriation that we have considered, up or down.
Well, I mean, I also thought that the senior center could probably help, have a reduction. So it wasn't like I just went after,
No,
I went after the Bluegrass Arts Center.
no, I agree 100%. We did not just go after the Bluegrass Arts Center. Call for the question, all those in favor, we'll do it by voice vote. We'll go around the room.
Judge, could you
Gay?
mind restating the motion real quick, just so I can be clear? I was having a little bit of a hard time hearing the conversation there.
Yes. The motion made by Magistrate Sammons is that we reinstate $2,000 to the Bluegrass Center for the Arts in the appropriations from 10 to 2. And that, you heard the discussion about that, Magistrate Gay?
Yes.
That's what the motion and was seconded by Magistrate Ellis.
From 10 to 12, not 10 to 2.
From 10 to 12, what did I say?
2.
My bad,
You might get me to vote on
Amend
that.
that.
my bad. From 10 to 12, going back from 10 to 12,000.
Question.
Okay, I've got
Okay.
it. I've got it.
Magistrate Gay, your vote.
I vote no.
Okay. Magistrate Short.
I vote no.
Okay, let's see, Magistrate Cullen.
I vote no.
Okay, that's 3. Magistrate, next is Ellis.
I vote aye.
And Magistrate Sammons.
I always vote for the judge. I vote aye.
Okay, the motion made, that is 3 to 2. Gentlemen, if I were to vote, it would put it into a tie. Okay?
When there's a tie, it's approved.
Is that statutory?
Yes, sir.
Is that statutory, Chris?
When there's a tie vote, it's yes.
Can't hear you, Chris. No, it's 3-2 right now without the judge voting.
But the judge voted yes.
There's no tie. That's right.
Okay.
So he would be creating the tie.
I would be creating a tie, and I don't want to do that under any circumstance, gentlemen. That's just a personal preference of mine. So accordingly, the motion fails, 3 to 2. Okay, because a tie would put it into an ambiguous position.
Appreciate you bringing it up, though, Judge. Thank you.
All right? So we addressed the concern, and we
My question still is to the counselor.
yeah.
When there's a tie vote, isn't it a affirmative vote then?
Counselor, I don't know.
If it's a tie vote, then you make the decision,
Yeah, you make,
Judge.
that's right, Judge.
So there's no,
Nothing drew it to a tie but you.
right.
Yes.
If there's a tie
Yes.
vote among us, it's your.
And I would like to keep it at that level, tell you the
Yes,
truth.
right. Amen.
All right, my closing, other than to adjourn in memory of Lynn. Yes.
Phil back there when he was talking about, I can't, if he was talking about Andy Barr's wife or not, but I wanted to say that, we lost our former county attorney on Tuesday, so when you adjourn, I'd ask that you also adjourn in memory of Lynn Dean.
Absolutely, and that was part of Magistrate Salmon's statement, and I appreciate your concurrence in that statement. Now, before we adjourn, I want to recognize as the Judge Executive of the county that tomorrow, June 19th, is Juneteenth. And there might be some out there that see this that are unaware of the importance of Juneteenth. But I want to read very briefly, very quickly, with all due respect, the recognition of Juneteenth. It's celebrated annually, 19th of June, in the United States to commemorate a Union Army general by the name of Gordon Granger's reading of federal orders in the city of Galveston, Texas on 19 June 1865. In summation, although President Lincoln had the proclamation, the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, most all of the slaves were not truly free, especially in the remote areas of Texas, one of the last Confederate states, that his troops went into Galveston and made the proclamation on the 19th of June. I would like to read when General Granger took his 2,000 troops into occupied Texas on behalf of the federal government and read aloud from the balcony in Galveston's Ashton Villa. This is the statement of General Order Number 3, and this is a good history lesson for those unfamiliar with it. The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor. The freedmen are advised to remain quietly at their present homes and work for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts, and they will not be supported in idleness, which is a positive, either there or elsewhere. That was General Order Number 3, cited on the 19th of June, 1865 in Galveston, Texas, by General Granger. So tomorrow is a day of celebration for many of our African American residents, and I want the court to recognize that we do recognize the importance of that date. Now, I would ask that we move for adjournment in remembrance and observance of the passing of Attorney Lynn Dean, and would offer up a prayerful support of her family going forward. The motion is made by Magistrate Sammons to that effect on adjournment, and seconded by Magistrate Ellis. All those in favor of support of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We thank you for your service, gentlemen, and we stand in adjournment. Thank you.